أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. So reviewing last week's material, right? We said that when a person wants to begin his journey into beliefs, there are questions that one must ask himself or herself. Okay? The first question that we're going to be asking is, when it comes to this world that we see around us, right? This universe that we see around us, we say that this universe is what leads us to God in the very end, where we say it's the effect and God is the cause, right? So we use the effect to get to the cause directly. Now a person, if they want to argue God's existence, they can go attack this issue of the cause and whether the cause is there or if it's an exceptional case. We can talk about that. Somebody else can come forward and say, I'm going to actually use what you try to prove the existence of the cause to prove you wrong. In other words, I'm going to question whether the universe itself exists or not. And they say that anytime you look at anything, you're using your five senses, which can be wrong. Just the same way the schizophrenic looks at something and does not actually, the thing that he's actually looking at or thinks he looks at is not actually there. So the five senses, the integrity of the five senses here is questioned. So they say, how do you know anything around you exists? How do you know your five senses are actually telling you the reality behind everything around you? How do you know that these five senses are actually telling you about the existence of anything as a whole? How do you know anything exists? Right? And we spoke about it, we kind of delved into it. I'm not going to go again into that specific topic. But the answer to this question is very simple. When it comes to the information that we have inside of us, it's split into two types. The knowledge that we have inside of us is split into two types. We have acquired knowledge, which is knowledge that you acquire using your five senses, which is 99% of the stuff that you have in your mind. Then you have innate knowledge, knowledge that's programmed inside of you, that nobody has to teach you. Your mother, did anyone teach her how to love you? No, right? Your father, did anyone teach your father how to love his children? Absolutely not. This is something that was embedded in you, okay? When it comes to your existence, it's very much the same way, where you understand without anyone telling you that you exist. The idea that you have in you existing is the biggest proof that you exist. Nobody has to tell you you exist, and that's why when ask the question, do you exist? They laugh at you. Because it's something so obvious that nobody has to prove to you. Right. And also, one of the biggest examples of ilm ladunni, innate knowledge, is the belief in God. Where you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the day you were born to the day you die. Whether you identify as Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist, whatever you identify as, deep down inside this individual believes in God. And it believes that God exists. Why? Because it's innate. And this innate understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and other things as well, in Islam we call it al-fitrah. What human beings have been created to believe in without anyone telling them what it is to believe. Al-fitrah. So that's very, very simple. If you want to go in depth into what we were speaking about, the lessons are there, inshallah. Right. After we prove that, alhamdulillah, we exist, and we're good on that note, right? A lot of people think, now it's time for us to speak about whether God exists, right? Now it's on us to see whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. That's our next obligation. That's the next obligation that we have. The answer to that is absolutely not. That's not the next thing that we speak about. The next thing that we speak about is why I should care in the first place. In other words, if you go to any atheist, anybody here, and tell them, you should believe in God, tell you why. Wallah, there's, the belief in God is this, the belief in God is that. They say, why do I even have to care about a religion or anything of that nature at all? What is pushing me towards that? And under what premise you told me that it's obligatory on you as a human being to understand why you are here, what you were here for, and who created you? Why? Why? Okay? The question at hand, if somebody was to answer you in that way and question you, the question at hand is very argumentative. In other words, if you were speaking with an atheist and they said, why should I even care? Right? The question usually does not stem from a logical idea. Rather, it stems from some sort of stubbornness, and 99% of the times. right? They're stubborn, they want to be who they want to be, so they say, why do I care? But the fact of the matter is, it's a logical question. It's much, much deeper than what you think. Because let's just say I was an atheist, unbiased, had no previous understanding of God or religion at all. And then Asim came up to me and he said, well, you have to search for the right religion, you have to know the truth. I tell him, Asim, I'm looking at the world here around me. And I see everything with my senses. I understand it with my eyes. I understand everything with my 5 senses. And I have already an idea about the world and what the world is. I already have this idea from what I see. No one's obliging me to do anything, right? There's no call from the sky saying, Ahmad, do this, Ahmad, do that. There is nothing telling me how to live my life. The way I see life to be is the way I'm going to live it. And there's no reason for me to say that there's something behind this reality that I see. In other words, and I gave the example here. I said the NBA, the NFL, right? Any major sports league. If they had a champion, would they investigate cheating after they've won the championship? Does it make sense for them to do that? Let's say we had the NBA. The Chicago Bulls, they won the championship. After they won the championship, everything is done. Would they begin investigating cheating? Will they begin to investigate cheating that happened in the championship? If there's nothing showing that there was cheating happening, and there was no doubt, would they actually have a full-on investigation? No. Nobody would investigate your innocence if there was nothing showing that you might be guilty. In other words, everything is showing itself to be perfectly fine. Why would I doubt? Why would I try to find something behind it or the truth behind it? It's showing itself to me. I see the world in the way I see it. Why should I care what's behind this world, the spiritual reality behind this world, if there is any? Are we all understanding the question? And so it's much deeper than we might think. Like, this question or this topic, this discussion, our ulama, they call it wujub al-ma'rifah. Okay? The obligation to understand. To understand what? To understand the world, to understand the universe. What's calling towards this understanding? Is it logical? Is it moral? Is it nothing? Just, wallah, I want to believe in religion, so I'm just going to search and find out. Okay? What are the reasons? When that person asks you that question, how do you answer back? They give 2 proofs. One is stronger than the other. Okay, one reason, in a sense, is stronger than the other. And you will see that, inshallah, in the later slides. The first one, or the first proof, they give it a title. It's the obligation to push away possible harm. Number 1, and we'll talk about it. Number 2, it's the obligation to think the beneficent. All right? The one that has given you the potential beneficent. Okay? The first one is a logical proof. It suits every human being that has a logical mind. The second one is a moral proof. So the person that's morally sound. The person who's morally sound, that would work with him as well. But the person who doesn't care about morals, doesn't care about these values that all humans share, is subjective in his morality, this may not work with him. Okay? All right. So, as for the first proof, what does it say? What does it mean? It says that we in this world, there's a lot of theories about what this world is about, what is happening in this world, what are the realities behind this world. There's a lot of theories, many, many theories. Some say there's something called heaven and hell after death, and that this is a path towards that afterlife. Some say this world is nothing, it means nothing, it's an accident, and nothing is going to happen after death. It's not a pathway to anything. It's a pathway to demise and destruction and absolutely nothing. That's what it is, it's nothing. Some say you are reincarnated after death. This is a path that is going to tell you what you're going to be later on. You're going to be a squirrel or you're going to be a king. This is a real idea. So the theories about this world are very, very different on earth, in the world that we live in here today. And also the theories about what happens after death are also very, very different. As we said, hell and hell, heaven and hell, nothingness, reincarnation. And nobody really knows what's going to happen after death. Not the Muslim, not the Jew, not the Christian. Nobody can come forward and say, this happens after death and I have the proof 1, 2, 3, 4 that I can actually see and is tangible. Yeah, I can get you riwayat, I can get you Quran. But those are not tangible proofs in the sense you're seeing what's happening after death. The only way you know what's going to happen after death is how? You die. If you experience it. So technically speaking, what's happening after death, we don't know. We need these theories to tell us. Like, you find that these theories, some of them that say, listen, you're reincarnated, there's no danger behind that theory. Others, no, there's a punishment, there's hell, there's pain. And how long does that pain last for? Eternity. Unlimited amount of pain, unlimited amount of punishment. So you see that some of these theories are actually very dangerous. And these people that hold these theories, and the theories themselves, they say, if you don't follow this way of life, you're going to go to hell. If you don't follow this specific path, you're going to go to hell. So the Muslim says, if you don't follow this path, you're going to go to hell. The Christian says, if you don't follow this path, you're going to go to hell. Similar with the Jews, similar with this guy, similar with that guy. So now we have a possibility, whether it be slim or large, there's a possibility that there's going to be harm inflicted on me as an individual after death. And what's that harm? It's an immense amount of harm. A harm that lasts for eternity, that has no end. That has no end. So here the logical mind says, if there is a possibility of harm that is put beside or equated to or connected to an immense amount of harm. So if there's a possibility that is connected to an immense amount of harm, that possibility is logical. It's a logical possibility. It's a logical possibility. So if I had 5% chance that I'm going to hell, that 5% is enough for me to get up and act on it. As opposed to me saying there's a 5% chance that there's a little dog outside that might howl at you. Who cares? Go outside. Okay? Who cares? You don't act on that 5%. Why? Because the harm is not enough. Logically speaking, it's not like you're going to get up and run away. Right? The harm itself is not enough, so you're not going to act on it. But the 5% you might act on. So what do? How do you act on it? Just 1 second. How do you act on it? You get up and search to know that you will be saved at one point in time. When the time comes, you will be saved. You have the truth with you. So if there is that possibility, if that possibility turns out to be true and not in your favor, what? You're saved. And that harm is pushed away. What is it? The proof that says the obligation to push away possible harm.
It just makes me kind of wonder. So like you're saying that humans have to search for that possibility that something bad could potentially happen.
Yes.
That's what causes us to believe that there is something bad.
That's what causes us to search.
That's what allows us to believe in hell.
It does not allow us to believe in it. No. It pushes us towards looking whether it's right or wrong. Trying to understand whether it's right or wrong. It's a reason for you to get off your couch and read a book that will tell you or prove to you hell or heaven, whether they exist or not. It's not necessarily a proof of the existence of something. It's the proof that a person in his logical mind or her logical mind has to get up and search for the right religion. Because there's a huge chance, or there's a huge amount of harm that's equated to some sort of chance, whether it's slim or large, that you're going to fall into that harm. Okay? And the best way to kind of give you an example, or the best example for such a thing, is if you were put in a room with 10 doors. Okay, and this is the next slide. You were put in a room with 10 doors. Okay, and you were told, behind one of those doors is a hungry lion. Hungry lion. And behind 9 of those doors, it's freedom. I'm asking you now, what would you do? You are put in that situation where you have 10 doors, okay? One of them, behind one of them, random, there's a lion, hungry lion. And behind 9 of them, it's freedom. What would you do? Guys, you're allowed to knock on the doors, you're allowed to listen, you're allowed to do a lot of things, okay? Right? No, you would go to the door and you listen. Is there a lion? Is there something behind the door? You'd look through the keyway. Like, check. You're just going to open and yalla. Okay? No. Okay? No. Knock on the door. Hear if there's a lion pacing. If there's a lion growling, do something. Okay? Test. The logical person wouldn't just go, yalla. No. Okay? You test. You try to see. If there's a way to see, then you would see. Right? Very same idea. That there's a possibility of harm. There's a possibility of harm. And the harm is immense. It's your life. You're not going to get away from a hungry lion. Okay? The possibility is enough for you to stop and think of what I should do. What is my next step? And it's to test. And that's exactly why that person has to get up and test. Because the possibility of harm, whether it's there or not, doesn't matter, it's a possibility. But the possibility is there for an immense amount of harm. Even if it's 5%. Because what's behind it is eternity. What's behind that possibility is eternity. Okay? So this is the example that we gave. Alright? You better not. Because in the end, you have to test and see what's the best possible answer. So the moral proof. Okay? So the moral proof that we were speaking about. The obligation to think a possible beneficiary. The possible beneficiary. You say that. Right? The one that has given you what you have. Okay? Moral proof. It's a moral proof. What does it say? It says you as a moral person, your obligation towards somebody that has given you something is to thank them in any way, shape, or form. Okay? That's the moral obligation that you have. And you as a moral person, if somebody has given you something and you don't thank them, the other people around you who are just as moral as you will look down on you for doing such an action. You're not living a moral life. And so, you have been given something for sure. You've been given a cell phone, you've been given a house, you've been given food, you've been given parents. You've been given a world that welcomes you. You've been given something. So you as a moral person, you have to say, طيب, who has given me this? Who has given me this? If there's potential that somebody has given it to you. Who has given it to me? And what does he want me to do? Or she want me to do when it comes to thanking him or her? When it comes to thanking it, when it comes to thanking them, whatever it may be, I don't care what it is. What is it that I have to do? Is there potential? Is there a potential giver? Or is it just an accident? Here we're between two. That there is a giver and that there's not a giver. If there is no giver, then you searching and arriving at the conclusion that there's no giver, you didn't go against your own morality. But if there was a giver, and you found that giver, and you thank that giver in the way that this giver is supposed to be thanked, you did not go against your morality. Rather, you went with what morality says. But the opposite is not true. In other words, if I just sat down and I didn't do my moral obligation to search for the person who has given, if there is, and thank. If there is no giver, nothing really happened. But I went against my morality for not trying. And if there was a giver, I also went against my morality for not thanking that giver. Again, not the strongest proof, but it's something that will help. Something that will kind of give strength to whatever was already said. Okay? So that's the lesson for today. Guys, please study these lessons, and inshallah you'll find that they'll benefit you. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.